Matthew 2, we're going to read 13 through 18, and Exodus 14.
Say that first one again.
Matthew 2, 13 through 18, Exodus 14, 10 through 14. Tonight we're going to talk about coming out of Egypt. Everybody got it? Matthew 2, 13 through 18. And when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise, and take the young child and his mother, and flee into Egypt, and be thou until I bring thee word. For Herod will seek the young child to destroy him. When he arose, he took the young child and his mother by night, and departed into Egypt, and was there until the death of Herod, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken of the Lord by the prophet, saying, Out of Egypt have I called my son. Then Herod, when he saw that he was mocked out of the wise men, was exceedingly wroth, and sent forth and slew all the children that were in Bethlehem and in all the coast thereof, from 2 years old and under, unto the time which he had diligently inquired of the wise men. Then was fulfilled that which was spoken by Jeremy the prophet, saying, In Ramah was there a voice heard, lamentation and weeping for her children, and would not be comforted, because they are not. Now, I promise I'm not going to talk about Christmas right now, but that is part of the Christmas story, isn't it? But we're talking about out of Egypt, coming out of Egypt. Exodus 14, 10 through 14. And when Pharaoh drew nigh, the children of Israel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians marched after them, and they were sore afraid. And the children of Israel cried out unto the Lord. And they said unto Moses, Because there were no graves in Egypt, hast thou taken us away to die in the wilderness? Wherefore hast thou dealt thus with us, to carry us forth out of Egypt? It's not this the word that would tell thee in Egypt, saying, Let us alone, that we may serve the Egyptians. For it had been better for us to serve the Egyptians than that he should die in the wilderness. We should die in the wilderness. And Moses said unto the people, Fear ye not, stand still, see the salvation of the Lord, which he shall show to you this day. For the Egyptians who have seen today, you shall see them again no more forever. The Lord shall fight for you, and you shall hold your peace. Out of Egypt. In this chapter, God told Moses to gather up the Israelites and lead them out of Egypt. That was a land of bondage. It was a land of many false gods. And he said, I want to lead y'all out into the promised land. And in verse 10, he said, when they looked up and saw Pharaoh and his army coming after them, they started complaining. Why have you taken us into this wilderness to die? We told you in Egypt to let us alone so that we could serve the Egyptians. Or just leave us over there where we're not doing anything. We're among the heathen. We're among the false gods. We're among the ones killing the children. We're among all this stuff. But just leave us alone, because we don't want to have to go through any turmoil. We don't want to have to go through any hardships. And Moses told them, Fear not. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. The Lord will fight for you. Hold your peace. This has been another strange year for us. Just here in our church right here, we've seen death. Carol and I know of 7 deaths in the last 2 weeks. And it's just been rampant, not just in our church, but, people that we know. There's been illnesses. Last year, our church was just full on homecoming. And this year, so many of our people were sick. They couldn't come out in the weather that was not the best in the world. We were warm and dry under the tents, but still, they didn't want to come out in that. And there's been so many out, and so much going on in our church. And then we've had job losses. There's people that are not knowing what is going to happen. It's been another strange year. We adults sometimes talk about the glory days or the good old days. Things weren't as complicated. It was just a simpler time in our life. Some of y'all are younger, but some of us remember when we talked about the good old days. You went to work, you came home, you went to church, everybody went to church. You didn't have your children or somebody else say, well, I'm not going today. I don't want to do that. No, everybody went. I don't remember a time. I think about children that are constantly griping and complaining because Daddy can't spend time with me. He can't get out and play ball with me. Back when I was small and back when some of y'all were small, Daddy went to work to pay the bills. He didn't have time to get out and do all of some of these things that kids pitch a fit about today. Oh, but I want my parents to do this. I want my mama to do this. I want my daddy to do this. And they're constantly griping about it. No, it was a day that when Mama put the food on the table, you ate it. And when Daddy brought home the money, it went as far as it could go. And then if you didn't have enough for a pair of shoes, you didn't gripe and scream and yell about it. But now, oh my Lord, if you don't have that $200 pair of tennis shoes that everybody else has got, even though you've got a bunch of, that's not a simpler day to me. I do think about those simpler days. There was nobody in that I knew of back in my life trying to keep up with the Joneses. And you smoked cigarettes, not weed. You shot BB guns, not 22s or 357s. You got penicillin shots. You didn't shoot up cocaine. You guys laid down rubber on a hill so you could ruin your back tires, but you didn't go out stealing the cars. Yeah, it was a simpler day to me, and I do long for it, but I don't want to go back to Egypt. I don't want to go back into that time. Used to never hear about adults wanting to give up. But now people are talking about giving up, losing hope. They say they have nothing to live for and nothing to look forward to. But we do. We do if we only... I do know that there are homeless people. I do know that. But not usual. And the two homeless people that I know of choose to be homeless. They have families that would let them live with them right today, but they choose to be homeless. We do have something to look forward to. The best is behind rather than in front of us. It's like we're in Egypt. That's what people are saying now, but that's not true. We don't have to go back to that in Egypt. We can go back to the good old days, I feel like, but the good old days were the simpler times. We've made it harder in our life today. The Old Testament speaks of coming out of Egypt 186 times. Do you think that God wanted to bring you out if something was so important that he had recorded in his word, Brother Bobby, 186 times, that he wanted to bring you out of Egypt, where all these things were bad, all these false gods, all these murdering the children, giving them up to false gods, all of these things. 486 times. He said, we're coming out. And we are coming out. Egypt refers to a place where God's people were hurting, really hurting. Women were not equal in the days of Egypt. Children were sacrificed to false gods. There were really pain and agony going on. We had rulers that would just soon to kill you as to look at you. Well, now, if you don't get what you want to eat in jail, they put up a fuss and start picketing the place and everything else. No, that's not what happened back then in Egypt. They'd kill you dead and laugh at you. You think about when Esther couldn't even go before the king unless he held up his scepter. He would kill her. He would kill not just her, but anybody. If that ruler didn't hold up their scepter, you didn't go before them and say anything. That's Egypt. That's what we're talking about. Not necessarily the place as much as a state of mind in what we're in. It also talks about a place where there were the 10 plagues. The blood plague, where all the waters of Egypt turned to blood. The frogs, the lice, the flies. Can you imagine opening your cabinets, opening up your refrigerator, going and pulling back the cover on your bed, and flies and frogs and all this stuff hopping all around? Can you imagine? But that's what was going on there. And Iran, all the cattle of Egypt were killed, but none of the Israelites. So you go out here, this was what was the plagues that was going on. You go out and everything you own dead. All of your cattle that you worked for, and there they are laying there dead. Boils. All of a sudden you get up and you try to turn over in the bed and you've got these boils all over you hurting so bad that you can't even bend your arm or bend your knee. These plagues were going on. Hail and locusts. Every time I think about the locusts, Daryl's daddy, when he was alive, he always farmed. And Lord, he hated those little bugs that would get on his corn and those little worms that would, oh Lord, he would pitch the awfulest fits you've ever seen. And he would get out there and have us picking those things off one at a time. And here was a field. And Lord, but can you imagine? I mean, as far as from here to y'all's house, fields full of these locusts just eating everything to the ground. It wasn't these little worms that were trying to cut the ear of corn off. It was the awful things. And then there was the plague of darkness. Egypt was dark for 3 days. And then we talked about it before, the plague of the firstborn, where they were killing the children under 2 years old. Honestly, what they were trying to do was kill Jesus. But what if you had a baby during that day? All Herod wanted to do was kill Jesus, but he was killing everybody's babies under 2 years old. These plagues. None of us can forget how God called the Israelites out of Egypt. And they stood before the Red Sea, looking behind them. They were about to be slaughtered. Here was the Egyptians. They were running up on them, and they were coming, and they were about to kill these people. They were standing there griping, and we just read it in the Bible. They were griping and complaining. But what did God do? He opened up that Red Sea, and here we went across they went across on dry ground. This is God. He wants to take us out. Who is your Egyptian that's coming after you? What is it in your life that is coming after you, wanting to take over in your life, wanting to tear you down, wanting to you're just sitting there, oh God, how am I going to make it today? What are we going to do? And there's so many of us today that are. Some of us are not, but there's a lot of us. If we had Bell's palsy, and our face was pulled down on one side or the other. That is your Egyptian coming after you, and you can't get rid of it. There's nothing you can do about it. But God parted the Red Sea. Sister Ann, he said, I'll do something about it. I'll part the Red Sea. I'll make that face go back the way it is. That is the Egyptian coming after you. We're coming out of Egypt. We're going away from these things. What if we had the kidney problems that some of us have in this church? And we're saying, oh God, what in the world are we going to do? That's the thing that's coming after us. Your baby is having all of these things going on in school. That is what we're talking about today. And God's saying, I'll bring you across on the Red Sea, and you won't even get in the water. You won't even have mud on your feet, because it said he went across on dry ground. And God said, I'm bringing you out of Egypt. These things are real. They're real to us. No, we're not having the problems they're having, but that's what our problem is today. Those are the things that God's saying to us. They want to cross on dry ground, and God still wants to move us out today. Not tomorrow, but today. In the passage we read in Matthew, we're talking about the angel appeared to Joseph in a dream, and he tells them to get up and get Mary and Jesus, and you take them out, because Herod's going to try to kill them. He's searching for them, and he's going to come and kill him. And in a dream, he gets up, and he moves them just like God said. How many of us will let God talk to us, and we'll get up and we'll move when God says move? So many of us says, well, I don't see anything wrong. I'm in my warm bed. I've got the air conditioning turned on, or I've got the heat blanket turned on, and everything's seeming good, and I really don't know what you're talking about. I'll just lay right here. God's saying move. When I want you to move, he's saying move for a reason. He's wanting to take care of us. He said, you get on out of there till Herod dies. And as a result, the scripture from the prophet Hosea is fulfilled. Out of Egypt, call my son. That was spoken 740 years before Jesus was ever born. But God knew that he needed them to get up and get out of there. He knew it all. He saw the big picture. And they moved. A time when life is not all we had hoped for, but God said, listen, I'm still bringing my people out of Egypt. I'm still taking you to the promised land. If you'll just listen to me. I'm ready for my promised land. In this passage, God calls the Holy Family out of Egypt just in time. Herod realizes the wise men had outsmarted him. Well, they were called wise men. They were called wise men for a reason. Herod's furious. And he orders for all the males to be killed under 2 years old. In that way, Jesus would be included. But now, the time had passed. Those who were attempting to kill Jesus are dead and gone. They go to Nazareth, and another scripture is fulfilled that was spoken through the prophet. He will be called a Nazarene, referring, of course, to Jesus of Nazareth. As I said, I'm ready to get out of Egypt. Here's some rules that I looked up and I jotted down for us to get out of Egypt. I wrote down 10 of them. First, we've got to realize that God had a reason for us to be in Egypt.
Right.
Why does God want me here? Why does God want me to go through this? Why does God want me to go through this thing where my throat the third time? I'm so tired of it. But there's a reason. I trusted him one time, and I trusted him again, and I'm going to trust him again. But it counted whatever happens, I'm trusting him again. One more time. Y'all saw it happen. David's seen it happen every time. But what can I learn? This is my Egypt right now. What do I need to learn from this? Why am I here? Why am I going through this? Y'all ask, every one of you, ask yourself this question. Why am I going through what I'm going through? Why am I here? C.S. Lewis said, pain insists upon being attended to. God whispers to us in pleasures, but he shouts in pain. When you've got a kidney stone, you're going to get up and do something about it. If you feel like you're having a heart attack, you're not just going to lay there and say, well, I think I'm having a heart attack. You're going to call 911 or be hollering, somebody call 911. Pain is going to insist you do something with it. If your foot is hurting, you're not just going to say, well, my foot hurts. You're going to hold it. You're going to put it in Epsom sauce. You're going to do something.
Come on.
To get the pain away. If you've got a toothache, you're going to be pouring in salt. You're going to be pouring in that toothache medicine. And if it keeps hurting long enough and the drugstore's closed in Douglasville, you go to Lithia Springs. And if it's closed in Lithia Springs, you go to Atlanta. You're going to get something to help you. Pain insists on you getting help. Number 2, be more concerned for God's glory than your personal relief. When you and I experience pain and heartache, it's hard for us to focus on anything else. It's hard to focus on anything positive. It's hard to stay optimistic. It's hard to keep our eyes on Jesus. When you're going through some of the hardest times in your life, your eye is on that. We'll go back to the toothache, because I'm thinking about Sister Vicky. Oh, my Lord, my tooth is killing me. Yeah, I'm saying, Jesus, help me. Lord, Jesus, help me. But really, my mind is not on Jesus, Brother Bobby. It's on my toothache. I mean, for real, you think about it. Yeah, I'm saying, oh, Jesus, please help me, Lord God, what is going on? But I'm hurting. That's what my mind is on. But God said, be still. I'll bring you out. You know, he's wanting to help us. He's wanting us to turn our minds on him. He's wanting to say, I know you're going through this hard time, but I know what you're going through, and I'm the one that can help you. I think about our sister that was here Sunday. The little thing, tears was just running down her face. She was hurting so badly because she had just lost her mom a couple of weeks ago. And when I put my arms around her, I told her, I said, I can put my arms around you, but I can't fix it. But he can. She didn't care that I had my arms around her. She just wanted somebody to help her. She didn't care that it was just Jesus that could help. All she wanted was the pain gone. And that's the way we are. But Jesus is the one that can help us. He's
Glory.
The one that can fix
Yes.
us. He's the one that can take us out of the pain that we're in, and out of the heartache we're in, and out of the trouble we're in. He's the one that can do it. So let's be more concerned with giving him glory than we are getting our pain gone. Our kidney stone gone. Number 3, acknowledge the enemy, but keep your focus on Jesus. Now, I've heard people say, well, Satan really don't bother me. I really don't feel tempted. Well, I don't feel tempted to drink alcohol, but I sure feel tempted to eat a chocolate cake. There's something that you feel tempted to do that, and don't worry. I mean, you're saying, well, that don't worry me. Those people over there, they're tempted to that. You're tempted to do not tempted to do something. But have you ever thought about, if Satan's not bothering you, evidently you're not a threat to him. You must be dancing to his tune.
Uh-oh.
You must be going right along beside him. If he's not bothering you, you're not doing anything to get in his way.
Think about it. Think about
So you
it.
think about that. Acknowledge the enemy. Yes, there's a Satan up there. And yes, he's got demons. And yes, they do have power. But my God has more power. Amen. And don't be afraid to tell him. Oh yeah, devil, I know what you're doing to me, but I also know that I can put you under my feet. And don't mind telling him so. Because that's what God said. I give you power to tread on the enemy. So, keep your focus on Jesus. Number 4, pray. And when you've finished, pray some more. This is what Paul meant when he said, pray without ceasing. No, we can't pray 24/7. We can't be on our knees every minute of every day. We've got to sleep some. We've got to eat some. But he did say that when I bring something to your mind, or I bring someone to your mind, or our prayer line things on your phone, and if you've got time to answer it, you've got time to pray. And I'm not bragging, I'll just say this. There's a sister of mine that this girl has for months now been taking care of a family member that has some dementia, I'll say that. And then a couple of weeks ago had a stroke. This girl is so worn out, she doesn't even know who she is. So last night, I asked her, will you go to bed and let me pray for you? Instead of you going home and praying for your family and your daddy and your mother and this and that, will you go home and get a bath and go to bed and let me pray? And the reason I said that is because it took me back to the days that I was on the mission field with Sister Betty Cornett. The first year that we went, I wasn't teaching in the Bible college, and I was preaching some, but not like she was. This was my very first year. I didn't know where I was, much less what to do. But this was my job. Betty, you go to sleep. I'll pray for Tim at home, and I'll pray for Tina, your daughter, at home. She didn't have grandchildren then, but I'll pray for them. I'll pray for God to anoint you. And you just study and get your word. And that was my job for a year. For God to keep us safe and to keep the guns from shooting us and the people from locking us up and from everything else happening to us. And that was my job. And so that brought it back to me. Have you ever thought about letting someone that's so tired that they don't know what to do, you be their prayer partner for that day, and you pray the prayers for them, and pray for somebody else instead of my 4 and no more. I've told y'all before, when a church that I used to go to back when my grandchildren were little, well, Tony was quite young too. If you stepped on the platform to sing, to testify, or anything else, you had to pray 1 hour a day. And he didn't ask us when we walked in the back door. This was his words. If you step on that platform, you've said, I prayed an hour a day that week. Well, it didn't take long, Sister Ann, till I got tired of praying for me, Daryl, and our children, and Mom and Daddy, and our house, and my brother, and all that, and my business, and Daryl. It wasn't long until my prayer time went further out, and it went further out, and it went further out. And before long, in that same hour, I wasn't worried about my foreign no more. I was able to pray for the president, like the word said. I was able to pray for our country, like the word said. I was able to pray for our missionaries, like the word said to do. Pray without ceasing, no, not 24/7, but give your time to God. Number 5, give God time to work. Most of us know by now that God's timing is not the same as ours. He knows what He's doing. One day is as 1,000 years in the eyes of the Lord. God takes His time doing His work. And I like this. I saw this somewhere, and it fit in here. It said, a man cried out to God and asked, "What's 1,000,000 years to you, God?" And God said, "A minute." And then the man said, "Well, what's $1,000,000 to you, God?" And God said, "A penny." And so the man said, "God, can I have a penny?" And God said, "Sure, in a minute." Stay confident. God's at work. When it seems He's forgotten you or your problems, remember, it's only been a minute to Him. He's working it all out. Go back to when we started. What's He trying to teach us? While we're waiting in that minute, what's He trying to teach us? In Numbers 6, when you have doubt, take a step of faith. When doubt's present, it's sometimes because we lack faith. When Peter walked on the water, and we all know what happened, he started looking at the waves. He started looking at the water. They started splashing up on him. And when the water started lapping around his feet, and then it got up to his knees, and it came on up, he got his eyes off of Jesus. But Jesus reached out and took him by the hand. And he pulled him on up. Well, I heard a preacher say not too long ago something that was really interesting to me. And when I was looking this up and I saw where Jesus reached out and took Peter by the hand. Have you ever thought about why God picks you by the hand? If you were to take the Lord's hand, you could let go. But when He reaches out and gets you by the hand, He's not letting go. He just pulled him right on up. He got him right on out of that, and He's pulling you right on up. Whatever it is that you're going through right today,
Come on. He's
grabbed hold of your hand, and He's pulling you out of it. And don't doubt. Don't let your faith waver. Do you have more doubt than you have faith? Well, just remember, God's got you by the hand. So it's not that you've got faith in what you're doing. You've got faith in the hand that's pulled you up out of the miry clay that you're in, pulled you up out of the waves that's overtaken you, pulled you up out of the sickness that you're in, pulled you up out of whatever's going on in your life, whatever's going on
Come
in
on.
your children's life. God's the one that's got you by the hand, and He's not letting go. So don't live in doubt. Which one do you choose? Faith or doubt? And it's not faith in you, it's faith in Him. Number 7, see God's presence all around you. Acknowledge you're in a battle with Satan, but keep your focus on what God's doing, not on what Satan's doing. Satan's always up to no good, and God's always up to all good. Everything's good when God's in it. He made the water float from the rock. He caused a donkey to speak. He made time to stand still in the day of Joshua, and He spoke from a burning bush. Trust God.
Trust Him.
Trust God.
Yes, amen.
Don't look at the other things that Satan's doing. Look at the things that God's doing. Trust that He'll do something unique. Now, all of these things that I just spoke about, over and over, God was working. But He never did do the same miracle twice. He didn't say one day, Moses didn't say, y'all come on down and I'm going to tell you what God did for me at the burning bush, and I've written me a book and teaching you how to do it. No, God didn't do it again. He healed the man's eyes, but one time He put mud in them, another time He spoke, another time He told you to go pray for them, and they'd be healed. God does things He wants to do in His own way. Number 9, allow Egypt to be a time of faith building for the future. It would be good for you if we could just somehow learn from mistakes of others, but we don't. And we think it won't happen to me, but sometimes it does. Then we fail. We recognize that God has a purpose for us right where we are. He has things to teach us. God has spent more time on some of us before we moved out of Egypt than He did others. God is trying to teach us something. And that has been almost a theme all through here. What are you learning while you're in Egypt? What is God trying to teach you? Number 10, give God the glory. When God moves you out, don't you say, oh, praise God, I pull myself up by the bootstraps and I just blow my way on out of there. Oh, just look at me, what I did. I paved my way out. I did this, I did that. I prayed my way out.
Come on.
If you want to be spiritual, it was God that brought you out to start with, and you got to give Him all the glory.
Come
on.
God
Who heals
glory.
You. It's God that makes a way where there seems to be no way. It's God that provides everything you need. It's not you. It's nothing you've done other than say, God, I'm yours. I'm ready to learn whatever you want me to learn, but I'm ready to come out and I'm ready to go cross the Red Sea. I'm ready to go into Canaan land, and I'm ready to go into the Promised Land. I'm ready to do what you've had for me to do.
Come on.
Again, what did you learn in Egypt? What was He trying to teach you? Did you stay long enough to give in or give up? I'll preach. I'll teach. I'll quit whatever it is. And let me tell you right now, it's not always I'll quit drinking. It's not always I'll quit drugs. It's not always I'll quit smoking. Sometimes it's I'll start a bus ministry. I'll start a youth choir. I'll start children's church. I'll start I'll start whatever it is you want me to do, God. He's talking to us. Remember, when we go to jail, we're paying a debt to society for something we've done wrong. But when God locks us up, when we're in our Egypt, He's taking us aside. He's trying to get our attention so that we'll do what He created us to do. What is it God has created you to do? Come on out of your Egypt and let Him bring you on out. And say, God, whatever it is you have for me to do, I'm ready to do. Lord, I want to be that person you want me to be. I want to go where you want me to go. I want to sing what you want me to sing. I want to preach what you want me to preach. I want to do the job you want me to do. I want to be the aunt you want me to be, and whatever, the grandma, whatever you want me to be, Lord. It's not that I don't want to put up with them. Yeah, Lord, I'm ready. They're mine, and I'll teach them everything I know to teach them. Lord, what do you want me to do? I'll be there when you want me to be. Help me, God, to get on my knees and find out what it is you want me to preach. And I know that I want to sound good like everybody else, but God, I want to stand before you and you say that I delivered the word you gave me. And Lord, when it's time to sing, I may not sound as good as everybody else, but at least I'll bring forth what you want me to bring forth in song. I heard our pastor say, you can turn that off. I heard our pastor say the other day,